Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. You know how much we all loved digging into those books that really make us think. So today we're going to be diving into The Way is Within.
By Ron W. Rathbun.
That's right. We're not going to do like a whole book review or anything.
Yeah.
We just want to pull out those really profound ideas about, self-discovery and finding inner peace.
Absolutely. And this book is packed with them, so
Yeah, it is.
just going to try to focus on the most impactful ones today.
Okay, so to start off, Rathbun talks about the mind being like a canvas. So like you're the artist, your thoughts and emotions are like the paints, and every choice you make, it's like a brush stroke.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
And all those little choices, they create this big picture of your life.
Yeah.
What I find really interesting about that analogy is that it really emphasizes being aware. It's not about like thinking positive thoughts all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about seeing how your habits and the ways that you react.
Yeah.
They're kind of like painting your reality already.
Whether you realize it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like whether we're paying attention or not, we're always creating something.
That's right.
And Rathbun, he actually suggests this really interesting question to ask yourself when things just feel kind of off.
Okay.
And that question is simply, why? Just taking a second to stop and be like, why is this happening? Or why am I feeling this way? It can totally change your perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it sounds so simple,
Yeah.
but it brings you right back to the present moment.
Yeah.
Instead of just reacting, you're taking that step back to observe what's really going on.
Yeah.
And to see yourself in the situation.
So it's almost like you're stepping back from the canvas to see the whole picture.
Exactly.
You're not just caught up in one tiny detail.
Right. And then from that point of view, you can start to choose, what you really want to create.
You can make those deliberate choices.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we're starting to get a sense of, being the artists of our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
But then Rathbun throws in this whole concept of buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about like,
Our triggers.
those emotional triggers
Yeah.
that make us totally lose it sometimes. He says it's like we have these buttons and people can just push them
Oh, yeah.
and then it sends us into a spiral.
It's such a powerful way to think about it. But what I find really interesting is that
Yeah.
Rathbun doesn't say that you should try to get people to stop pushing your buttons.
Hmm.
Instead, he challenges us to detach from those buttons altogether.
So instead of like trying to change everyone around us,
Right.
we're supposed to change our own internal wiring.
Exactly.
Hmm.
He's suggesting that we switch our focus,
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to control
Yeah.
what's happening outside,
Right.
which you can't always do.
Mm-hmm.
We learn to master our own reactions,
Okay.
which we can control.
So it's like taking back the paintbrush.
Exactly. He's tying it back to that mind as a canvas idea.
Yeah.
We're not just
Yeah.
at the mercy of everything that's happening around us.
Mm.
We can choose our response.
Okay. That sounds good in theory.
Yeah.
But does that mean we just let people walk all over us? I mean, sometimes those buttons, they need to be pushed right. Like there are some things, that we need to stand up for.
Well, and that's where
Yeah.
it gets interesting. It's not
Okay.
about becoming passive or just, burying your emotions.
Right.
Rathbun's saying that a lot of our reactions,
Mm-hmm.
they come from past experience or from these beliefs that we've been holding on to.
Mm.
And sometimes those reactions, they don't really help us.
They don't serve us.
Right. He's inviting us to take a closer look at those buttons
Okay.
to understand where they come from
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe choose a different path.
So it's about having more control,
Absolutely.
not letting those old patterns just dictate how we act.
Exactly. It's self-discovery. It takes
Yeah.
courage, and compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
But in the end, it leads to more freedom and inner peace.
Okay. But how do we actually detach from those buttons? Does Rathbun give us any like practical advice on how to do that?
Yeah, he does. And it gets a little bit zen.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
So he suggests we embrace this practice of walking softly, both like literally and metaphorically.
Mm.
He says that if we slow down our pace,
Okay.
both physically and mentally, it creates space for self-reflection and awareness.
Wait, he's actually talking about like walking slowly? Like how slow are we talking here?
Well, he doesn't give a specific speed.
Okay.
The main idea is to move intentionally,
Mm.
to notice each step,
Okay.
to feel the sensations in your body, the sounds around you,
Yeah.
the rhythm of your breath. It's about bringing mindfulness
Mm-hmm.
to just walking.
Okay. I can see how that could be calming.
Yeah.
But how does that help us deal with those buttons?
Well, think about it. When you're rushing around,
Yeah.
your mind's racing, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're more likely to react without thinking.
Totally.
But when you slow down,
Yeah.
you find space to just observe.
Mm-hmm.
And you can catch those triggers before they take over.
So it's almost like building a little buffer zone
Exactly.
between the button and our reaction.
Mm-hmm. And in that space, you have a choice.
Okay.
You can react in that same old way,
Mm-hmm.
or you can choose a different path.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. I'm feeling a little more relaxed just thinking about it.
It can be very powerful.
Yeah.
And you don't have to limit it to physical walking.
Okay.
Rathbun suggests we bring that same awareness to everything we do.
So it's about slowing down our thoughts,
Yes.
our reactions, our whole approach to life.
Exactly. Moving through the world with more presence
Yeah.
and with more grace.
Now that is something I can definitely get behind. Stepping back from all the chaos, and just choosing a more peaceful experience. Okay, so we've talked about the mind as a canvas.
Yes.
All those tricky buttons and the power of walking softly. What else does Rathbun have for us?
So much. So there's this idea in the book that really stood out to me. It's about change.
Okay.
Rathbun says that change is like a universal law.
Mm-hmm.
It's always happening.
Yeah.
It governs everything.
Right.
And there are two ways to approach it. You can fight against it,
Okay.
which usually just leads to a lot of frustration.
Can see that.
Or you can learn to go with it, which helps you cultivate patience and growth.
So it's like, are you going to be a raging river slamming into rocks?
I love that.
Or are you going to kind of meander your way to the ocean?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about realizing that you can't really resist change.
Mm-hmm.
Rathbun says instead of trying to control where the current's going,
Right.
you learn to dance with it.
Okay, I like that analogy, change as a dance.
Yeah.
But to be honest, sometimes change feels less like a waltz and more like mosh pit.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
But even in all that chaos, Rathbun says there's a rhythm there,
Okay.
a flow. The trick is to find your footing, to learn to move with the energy instead of against it.
So how do we do that? How do we go from feeling like we're getting tossed around to actually like leading the dance?
Well, he says the first step is acceptance.
Okay.
Accepting that change is happening. It's a natural part of life.
Yeah.
And fighting it only makes you suffer more.
Right. Okay. So we accept that change is happening,
Yeah.
but what if it's a change we don't want? What if it's like a loss or, a setback or something that's just really painful?
Well, that's where the real work comes in.
Okay.
He acknowledges that not all change is going to be easy or, pleasant.
Right.
But he says even when things are hard,
Yeah.
we can still find a sense of grace
Okay.
and ease.
How do you find grace when you're dealing with grief or some huge upheaval in your life?
It's not about pretending like everything's fine
Right.
or denying that you're in pain. It's about recognizing that even in those really dark times,
Yeah.
there's still that current of life flowing through you. And you can choose to align with it.
Okay.
Lets it carry you forward.
So it's about finding a way to move with the energy of the change.
Exactly.
Even when it feels really tough.
And that's where things like mindfulness
Okay.
and self-compassion
Yeah.
come in.
Right.
When you can observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment,
Yeah.
when you can be kind to yourself, even when things are difficult,
Yeah.
you find space for healing and growth.
I'm seeing a connection here to Rathbun's idea of walking softly.
Oh, yeah,
It's
definitely.
like even when it feels like life's a mosh pit, you can still choose to move intentionally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You always have a choice about how you respond to change.
Right.
And sometimes the most graceful thing you can do
Yeah.
is detach from thoughts. Trust that even though it's uncertain, you're being guided towards something new.
Wow. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
finding grace when things are hard,
Yeah.
connecting with that like inner current of life.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else we can do to become better dancers with change?
There is. Rathbun talks about paying attention to subtlety.
What does he mean by that? Subtlety, like being discreet?
Not quite.
Okay.
He means those subtle thoughts,
Okay.
feelings, intuitions that we often miss
Right.
because our minds are so busy.
Yeah, totally.
He says if we learn to quiet our minds
Okay.
and tune in to those subtle signals, we can access a much deeper level of wisdom and understanding.
It's like we need to learn a whole new language, the
Yeah.
language of our own intuition.
Exactly. And Rathbun believes that inner guidance is always there.
Okay.
But we have to make space to hear it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He suggests things like meditation, spending time in nature,
Okay.
or just slowing down.
Right.
Those can help us tap into that deeper knowing.
So it's not just about reacting to change.
Right.
It's about being proactive.
Yeah.
About seeking out our own inner wisdom and letting that be our guide.
That's a great way to put it. He emphasizes that true wisdom.
Yeah.
It's not about having all the answers.
Okay.
It's about developing a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.
I'm starting to see how all these ideas connect. It's like Rathbun's giving us a roadmap for how to navigate all those inevitable changes in life.
Right.
With more grace and awareness and inner peace.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, and it all starts with being willing to slow down, quiet your mind,
Okay.
and listen to that quiet inner voice that's always guiding you.
I love that. But before we go too far down that path,
Yeah.
does Rathbun just talk about meditation and inner peace? Or does he address like the more practical stuff too?
He does,
Okay.
especially the difference between seeking answers externally and finding that knowing within.
Oh, okay. Let's explore that. What does he say about the whole search for answers?
He says that real spirituality isn't about, like, following some strict set of rules
Okay.
or looking for approval from outside sources.
So no climbing mountains to find a guru?
Well, not necessarily. What Rathbun's getting at is that real lasting happiness comes from truly understanding yourself.
Okay.
Connecting to that inner wisdom that's already there inside you.
He has this one line that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
He says, true spirituality is defined by who you are, not by who you are not.
That is a powerful statement.
Yeah.
It really sums up his whole philosophy.
Yeah.
It's like we often define ourselves by what we're missing, by what we haven't accomplished yet,
Yeah.
or by comparing ourselves to other people.
Right, right.
But he says true spirituality, it's about recognizing your own wholeness, seeing the value and wisdom that you already have inside you.
So instead of trying to become someone else,
Right.
we need to learn to accept and appreciate who we already are.
Exactly. It's about realizing that we have everything we need to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. It's just about tapping into that inner resource.
I like that. And that kind of brings us back to the mind as a canvas idea.
Definitely.
It's like we're not starting from scratch. We already have all these colors and textures within us. We just need to figure out how to use them.
Exactly. And Rathbun says the way to unlock that inner wisdom is to quiet all the noise from the outside world and tune in to your intuition. He's not saying to ignore everything outside yourself,
Right.
but to learn to tell the difference between what really speaks to you and what's just distracting you.
Okay. So how do we do that? How do we learn to trust our gut feeling when there's so much noise pulling us in every direction?
It takes practice,
Yeah.
and it takes patience and being kind to yourself. Rathbun says we can start by finding ways to be still, maybe trying things like meditation,
Okay.
spending time in nature,
Yeah.
or just giving yourself some quiet time to reflect.
And I bet that ties into the idea of walking softly too, right?
Absolutely. It's all about slowing down, being more mindful,
Yeah.
and making space for those inner whispers to come through.
It's like instead of always looking outward for answers, we need to shift our attention inward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go from seeking approval from others
Right.
to cultivating trust in yourself.
It's like we're learning to become our own gurus.
That's a great way to put it. And Rathbun believes that when we connect with that inner wisdom, we naturally start living a more authentic and fulfilling life.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
Yeah.
As we wrap things up, what's like one final takeaway from The Way is Within that you think would be especially helpful for our listeners?
I think one of the most important things Rathbun emphasizes is that this whole journey of self-discovery, it's not about reaching a final destination.
Okay.
It's an ongoing process.
It's about the journey itself.
Exactly. It's about being open to the journey with all the twists and turns along the way.
Yeah.
And trusting that every experience,
Yeah.
even the difficult ones, is a chance for you to grow and change.
So it's not about achieving some perfect state of inner peace.
Right.
It's about learning to handle all those inevitable ups and downs with more grace, awareness, and self-love.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think that's something we could all use a reminder of sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for our listeners, if these ideas resonated with you, I highly recommend checking out The Way is Within for yourself.
It's a great book.
It really makes you think, and it offers this really insightful guide to living a more authentic and fulfilling life. Remember, the journey starts within. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
We'll catch you next time.